Fonterra is warning New Zealand has reached peak milk. And I've got a whole lot of farmers right now reaching for the volume knob and either turning it up full bore or turning it off. This is quite remarkable. Their Chief Financial Officer, Mark Rivers, says the volume of milk New Zealand is able to produce cannot increase from here. He cites a number of reasons: the lack of new land conversions going into dairy, and farmers are busy converting functioning, profitable dairy farmers into other aspects, particularly forestry, bit of horticulture, and in some cases even housing. So joining me now is Dr. Jacqueline Routh, who is an agricultural and environmental analyst. Hello, Jacqueline.
Hello, Andrew.
Is this a landmark day when somebody from the biggest milk company says peak milk? I mean, is this it?
Well, I think it certainly caused some people to do a double take because it's quite a prediction. He is absolutely right that some land has been converted to other uses, as in the ones you've just mentioned. But I think it shows that New Zealand farmers are the most innovative in the world. And we know this because they're not on subsidies, unlike most other farmers. And they respond to market signals, and they respond to, well, actually social pressures as well. And dairying is pretty hard work, and sometimes it seems that actually selling up for housing instead might be a simpler option. But what does that mean for the economy? So that's what I would be concerned about. If we've actually reached peak milk and are going to flatten off, that was what Mark Rivers suggested, can he really leverage the value of our production so that the economy is maintained or even improved? That's a very big question.
It is a very big question, and there was some figures that came out over the course of the week that said that basically 1,800 square kilometres of arable land was sold off to overseas interests, majority to Americans, and an awful lot was being sold off for forestry. And when you have a lot of new forestry stands, not only do you lose the productive land, but you also lose families from the area, you lose communities, and that actually depowers all the other producers in the area, and it is a weakening of our principal agricultural product.
Yes, and when we saw the dairy boom moving into Southland, having moved into Canterbury, what we also saw was a whole lot of infrastructure, a whole lot of schools, pharmacies, medical practitioners opening up again. And so the requirement of dairy to have ongoing labour, ongoing workforce, is actually very important for rural areas because it keeps them humming.
So it'd be okay if we hit peak milk, but if we start going backwards, that would be bad for the infrastructure, for the society that is built around this endeavour. Yeah.
It would, but I think we can rely on the innovation of New Zealand farmers to bring in technologies, and technological advance is what the whole of the agri-industry has been built upon. And there may well be increasing ability to enable the genetic potential of our cows. We've seen that though peak cow was something like 2014-15 and peak land was about 17-18, actually the milk production went on going up. So our very good farmers feeding our cows very well enables milk to be produced very efficiently, and that aspect can be improved in some areas.
Yes, because the other concern is purely fiscally, is that the company's fortunes and the way things are structured depends on growth. And when you hit peak milk and you don't have productivity gains, you're not having growth. And there is a theory that without growth, you're going backwards.
Well, there's a lot of people trying to say that actually growth is not the only thing that should be measured, and maybe we need to be considering how much the current money actually goes round and round in circles in New Zealand supporting the economy. And maybe Mark Rivers is right, we'll be able to leverage more out of each kilo. That is because it's sustainable, because it's produced incredibly efficiently. And we know we've got the greenhouse gas figures where we produce fewest greenhouse gases for milk in the world. These are all fantastic things that some people are saying they'll pay for. And so that aspect, notwithstanding absolutely the point about your effectively stranded assets, well, maybe there'll be other uses for those, including things like oat milk down south. So I would like to not call it milk, oat liquid.
Yes, well, we had an announcement from, strange enough, we had an announcement from Fonterra about that earlier in the week, didn't we? Did we not? They were moving into plant-based milk.
Well, it's an interesting thing that requires quite a lot of additives to make it anything like nutritionally the same, but this is a part of all the innovation that's going on. And people like to try new things, but fundamentally they want good protein, and the best protein comes from animals. It comes from milk and meat.
While I've got you here, and you seem to know everything, and I'm appreciating this.
No.
Plant-based milk, to make a litre of milk, how much land does it need? Does it need more or less than a cow?
For plant-based, it's not so much the land. Gosh, it would depend. You'd have to do it per kilo of protein. And the minute you start doing protein, dairy cows come up pretty well.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm just thinking, if you're making oat milk, you've got to plant a lot of oats to make a litre of milk, compared to one cow. Yes, it would depend how much you dilute it, Andrew. Yeah, okay.
And that's the problem with me saying don't think of it as a 200 ml glass. I have one more question for you. Yep.
Okay, so this would mean that Fonterra will be banking on global demand for milk to boost their earnings.
Yes.
The last auction we had, it went down. And it has been a bit yo-yo-y if you average it out over 10 years. So this will be a little nervy time in terms of guaranteeing a farm gate to farmers.
Well, yes, always. Always nervy, difficult to predict. But what we do see is that commodities are going up all around the world. They're highest increases for, ever, I think, ever. And New Zealand milk is people would say milk powder is a commodity, except that it can be sourced to country. You can identify it by country because of the grass-fed aspect. So I see a good future for all animal protein, that milk, meat, and many of the other products in New Zealand because we have such a beautiful country.
You'll keep. I like it. Dr. Jacqueline Rowell, thank you so much for your time this evening.
Live rugby commentary.
What a try!
All Blacks.
Oh, my!
NPC.
Well done.
And more. Gold AM. Listen live on iHeartRadio. Just search Gold AM.